Yeah, it was about 37K for school debt.
So yeah, I mean that puts you above average when we're talking nationwide for finishing with a lot of debt. So how did you approach after school? You have this big pile of debt. You have, I'm sure, years left on your military obligations. Did you
Hmm.
have a career path after the military you wanted to do, or did you want to do everything concurrently with the military? What was kind of your thinking with that?
Oh, so I pretty much did what every sensible American would do. I went and I took on a bunch of car debt immediately after that. That was, that was the the natural next step. You got to just pound that debt. So I got some car debt, got some house mortgage debt, and pretty much immediately, like what as soon as I saw those bills piling up, I was like, oh, this is normal. Like this is life. Like you go through, you have payments, and you work until you're 65, and that's just life. So until I like really did the math on it, like I found Graham Stephan. He's a guy who really changed my life. He's like, you really don't have to do that. Like most people do that, but you really don't have to do that. I was like, oh yeah, the math makes sense. So that's when I kind of like turned things around and kind of like got out of what I like to call the American nightmare, or the opposite of the American dream.
Where you're just filled with monthly payments that don't really go towards anything really that productive. So, how much debt did you end up peaking at then out of college before you got any houses or anything like that?
Yeah, so peak, or you could call it trough net worth, was negative 90K.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, that was basically 2.5 years ago now. It was January 2018 was negative 90K, and I was like, this ain't it, man.
Wow.
and, and
So,
yeah, I was like in a job that I did not like. I was working my butt off, and I was like, you should see some type of positive return from all this work that you're doing. But it was somebody was eating it, and it wasn't me.
so I mean, a lot of people can look at that situation and get incredibly discouraged. I mean, there are a lot of people in that situation just with college debt alone, and they don't even get a car out of it. So, how did you tackle this, or at least start to approach tackling this debt problem that you found yourself in? What steps did you take to start chipping away at it?
What I did, so what I would say is I kind of started to. That's where a lot of the mindset stuff comes in on my channel. Is like I kind of had to start using like mental tricks on myself, things that aren't quite true, but if you take them and believe them, they produce a lot of positive results. So I started to view myself, and this is like a little bit of a racially charged thing. I started to view myself as like slave. Like you're this debt is basically making you a slave. The Dave Ramsey often says the borrower is slave to the lender. Like that's his big Bible quote that he uses often. And when I heard that, it just kind of hit me. Like, an historical fact, just real quick, this is kind of a sidebar, but like we talked about this on one of my videos, but when slavery ended, like the way that they kept people enslaved, and you can see this in capitalism throughout history, is they gave people debt. Like they issue them little trinkets or like a car or whatever, and they put you into debt. They say, okay, well, you have to pay this back, which essentially means you work for me now. That's what that means. So as soon as I started to see it as like, you work for me now, and I was like, I feel like I'm better than that. I deserve more than that out of life. Once you start to see that debt as a problem, like that's the biggest thing. It's not, to me, it's not like the debt snowball or the debt avalanche, or like, it's looking at your situation and saying, this is a problem and I don't like it, and thinking about it all the time, and just that's your focus.